That's good.
Hey, how's it going? Today we are going to make, what are we making, Evelyn? She doesn't know. We're gonna make some bolognese. Thank you very much to everyone who has watched my first video. So I appreciate that a lot. I'm gonna try to do these every week. So if you haven't yet and you're watching this one, please subscribe. That would be great. I'd really appreciate it. Meat sauce for pasta. You can use any kind of pasta you want. I'm gonna do some pappardelle. I'm not making my own. Maybe that'll be in an upcoming video. We'll make pasta from scratch, but you can just use store-bought. It works really well. It's not really a super traditional one. It's kind of a mix of an American meat sauce and a traditional Italian bolognese. So you're gonna get the best of both worlds, hopefully. I like it a lot. My family likes it. Everyone who eats it likes it. So I'll show you how I make it, and then yeah, you can taste it out for yourself and see how you like it. Here is what you're gonna need. 1.5 cups of stock. Use whatever you like. I used vegetable stock. 1 cup of whole milk. For the meat, I used a 50-50 mix of beef and pork, but use what you'd like. Cubed pancetta or bacon. This is optional, but it does add a lot of flavor. 1 bay leaf. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Try to use a high quality one if you can. 1 28-ounce can of tomato puree. You can also use crushed tomatoes or whole tomatoes. 3 cloves of garlic. This is where I venture the furthest from traditional bolognese. 1 stalk of celery. 1 peeled carrot. 1 onion. I used a Spanish onion, but again, use what you'd like. And then 1/2 cup of red wine. You could also use white wine. Dice your celery. Try as hard as you can to get it cut evenly, but I didn't get mine perfect, and it still turned out really well, so just get it as close as you can. Same thing with your carrot. Dice it up. Try as hard as you can to get it even with the celery, so that way everything cooks evenly. You don't have big chunks of carrot that are uncooked and some really small ones that are mush. Try to get them as even as you can. Now the same thing with your onion. Try to get it as evenly cut up as you can. The same size as your carrots and celery for the same reasons that I just mentioned. Also, when you are cutting your onion, make sure you realize that, yeah, this is going to be too much for this cutting board. Oh well. Trim the ends off your garlic and then place the flat edge of your knife against it and give them a nice whack. You could, from here, put them into a garlic press, or you could just mince them up fine. It doesn't really matter. The idea is just to get it into smaller pieces so you don't have a huge chunk of garlic, but realistically, this is going to be cooked for a few hours, so it's going to cook down and you're not really going to notice it. No one's going to get a big chunk of raw garlic flavor, but I find this relaxing to mince up garlic. You could also make a paste if you really wanted to by putting a little salt and then smushing it around with your knife, but whatever you do, just, be careful. Now that we've got our vegetables prepped, let's go ahead and get a heavy bottom pot over medium heat. Into the pan goes some olive oil, and then we're going to render down our pancetta. Again, this is an optional step. If you don't want to use pancetta or bacon, that's totally fine. You don't have to. But about 5 minutes, let this sit for a few minutes and stir it in between. you should render out some of the fat, and then we can pull it out of the pan. The little brown bits on the bottom of the pot, that's exactly what we're looking for. That's depth of flavor. After 5 or 6 minutes, when all the fat is rendered out of that pancetta or bacon, you can pull it out with a slotted spoon onto a paper towel lined plate, and then from there we can add in our vegetables. Once your vegetables are in, you can add salt and pepper to taste, and a little oil if you need to. And these will sweat down for roughly 6 or 7 minutes till your onions are translucent and it feels like your celery and carrots are starting to cook down. Add your garlic and your tomato paste, and then give it a nice stir to make sure that we get all the tinny or canned flavor of this tomato paste out. It'll only take 3 or 4 minutes, but we want to make sure that it gets cooked. Once your tomato paste is cooked down, now we can add in our wine. Once this is reduced by more than half, which is roughly 5 or 6 minutes, you can go ahead and add in your meat. You could also do this in a vegetarian way if you really wanted to. You could use some impossible meat or tofu, or you could do this without meat. You could just do the vegetables and the sauce. I don't know that that's technically much of a bolognese at that point, but I bet it would be tasty. Also, my biggest tip for breaking up ground meat in any kind of recipe is to use a potato masher. It works really, really well, and it doesn't stick to the actual masher itself, so you don't have to worry about huge clumps. And I found that if you like a fine grind on your meat and you're not doing it yourself, use a potato masher. This cooked for about 8 minutes, and I added the pancetta back in. And once all of our meat has browned sufficiently, we are going to add in our tomato puree, or if you're using crushed tomatoes or whole peeled tomatoes, that can work too. Basically, whatever tomato element you are going to use, now is the time to add it. Mix this thoroughly, then add your stock and let it come to a simmer. Add in your bay leaf, and at this point you can really let it cook as long as you'd like. I cooked mine for about 2 hours. It's important to check your seasoning throughout, so don't forget to take a little taste, salt and pepper as needed. And then after you've cooked it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, go ahead and add your milk and get that incorporated. Now the milk may seem strange, but trust me, it's really important with this recipe. It gives it a rich flavor and it really helps balance the sauce. Now once you've added the milk, you can let it simmer for another half hour or so, but I wouldn't cook it much longer than that because you don't want to evaporate all that flavor you just developed. Give it one last little taste, a little more salt and pepper for me, but season it as you'd like, and then you're good to go. Now I used pappardelle, but you could use tagliatelle or whatever kind of wide flat noodle pasta you want to. Or really, if you wanted to, you can use anything. Spaghetti, bucatini, it's up to you, but wide flat noodles tend to work the best for a big hearty sauce like this. plate it up individually or in one big pot if you'd like to. If you're doing a family style, I was just doing it for the camera, obviously, and for one little bowl for me and the girls, so I just did it in a bowl, but feel free to just dump all your noodles into the sauce. That is very, very acceptable. And there you have it. I didn't have any fresh parm. Didn't think that one through, so I just had some store-bought grated old-fashioned parm. I put that on, and that'll do you. But add cheese to this. It really works. Want some cheese? Are you gonna put some cheese on? Good choice. All right. Okay. Well, while she puts cheese on, that's it. That's bolognese. It's really easy. It's a labor of love. It takes a while to cook. But you know what? In a lot of families, that's how you show love. That's kind of how I show love. I make things. I cook things for my family. So whether you hear it from a dad in your life or whether you don't, I'm a dad, and I'm in your life now since you're watching me, so I'm proud of you, I love you, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
I get my teeth.
Yeah, she's just getting some cheese, so go get your cheese. All right, let's eat.